Welcome to Daggers and Shadow Daddies.
We're your hosts, Ryan and Adriana.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Quick disclaimer, this is a reread for Fourth Wing and Iron Flame as we prepare for the book Onyx Storm. Spoilers ahead. We learned what spicy and smut mean.
We did receive some clarification, yeah.
That they actually aren't the same exact thing.
But that's true.
I think smut refers to the explicit, and then spicy refers to the heat between a couple. Like the
tension?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The more tension there is, the spicier it is. I thought it was just a nicer way of saying smut. Turns out you can have a spicy book and no smut.
Can we?
And vice versa. When I'm reading all the reviews, even on this book.
Or it's just emotionless sex.
Yeah.
That's all they're having is just sex for the sake of it. They're just trying to conceive.
Oh.
Is that what this is?
I don't know. I just thought they were interchangeable, so I will need to start correcting myself on that one.
Listen, I think most people are going to be fine with it.
I don't think many people probably even know this because spicy is a very common term.
Who decides this distinction? Like, what's the governing body? It's like there's a difference. Or is it just people who are bored reading their smutty books that are like, I'm so tired of hearing spicy?
When this is just pure smut.
Yeah, they're like, there's no spice. I don't know.
But in the past couple weeks, you have sent me TikToks about Violet's second signet.
Confirming my theory, primarily.
Her as a truth sayer. I feel convinced.
No, that wasn't my goal. I want you to come up with antithetical statements.
No, but I know why I've been pushing back so much on Truthsayer. I have a very controversial take on Violet's second signet. If she has to develop a superpower to have a trusting relationship with him, it might be a problem.
I think the downside would be if hers is Truthsayer, both of their signets, their second signets, are kind of underwhelming, especially in comparison to their main signets.
The author said that it would be a little underwhelming.
Yeah. And I think that part's a bit of a bummer.
But I also think that it's fair that a second signet isn't so intense and strong because that is when someone just goes crazy. So they're balancing this delicate line of being able to handle a second signet and not going crazy.
All right.
But as far as if it is Truthsayer, he's not the only one who is lying to her. He's not the only one who is withholding information. It's also Taryn and Darna, her mom, her sister, her brother, her dad, country, everybody is doing it. So even if it's not a great reason to develop a superhero power,
I'm in full support of whatever you guys need to keep Xaden where he is for you, right? Like the golden pedestal must remain shined. He does have more of an obligation to be honest with her than those other people do. You don't expect everybody you interact with to be as honest as you and I are.
Yeah, but as far as developing a need for being a truthsayer, it is there, and it's more than just Xaden.
Oh, I do agree. I think what I hope is that it would come in more so with the Empyrean than with Xaden and all this other stuff. It's said in this book, dragons don't divulge more information than absolutely necessary to the humans because they are in a need to know as far as the Empyrean is concerned. So I think Truthsayer being effective with the dragons would be the best use case of that signet.
Wow, I didn't even think of it being used on Taryn, Sigale, and Indarna.
But I mean, all of the dragons.
How could she use it on other dragons if they don't talk to each other?
She does. She talks to Coda.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. She doesn't follow any of the goddamn rules. We've been over this. Her second signet might just be that she is impossible to be killed by another dragon. Because she walks around like she's goddamn bulletproof in front of the lizards.
Huh. Well, yeah.
She talks to these other dragons. Like, it's not, I don't know. I think that would be, if it's Truthsayer, that's a cool avenue to go down.
It is. And there's a lot that comes from it and a lot of advantages. And it makes sense that she would have a need for it. Like, I've been convinced.
But Xaden finally being honest with her is not the big ideal scenario as far as I can see. Because all of it does serve to make Xaden a worse character.
Yeah, the only reason that he's honest with her is that she has a superpower to make him honest.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of, sadly, what it will take. But I think if that's a primary use case of the superpower, it also makes her seem really needy. Or she would be like, I developed a superpower so my boyfriend would quit lying to me.
Well, do you remember?
A different boyfriend. Jesus Christ.
No, I have to come to terms with this. He's not the only one lying. It's for everybody. So I have to be prepared and accepting of this signet if this is it. Because how I feel about her developing Truthsayer for Xaden is the same as how I felt about Kat having emotional manipulation used on Xaden.
And yeah, we're going to get into Kat's whole lesser magics thing.
Right? Yeah.
Because I think hers is kind of interesting because it's not that super. I think a lot of it could be done by just being intelligent. The way she manipulates their emotions, she causes things to heighten. But most of the antagonistic side of this is verbal. You know what I mean? We don't see it being used passively. It's a very active skill she's using.
We'll be getting into it in the next book, obviously. But I thought she enters a room and it's already heightened. Yes, this comes back into what you're saying. If you have a pattern of riling someone up with your words, your presence will rile them up again.
I think so. I think if you walked into a room with an ex-girlfriend of mine that was being over the top with me, she would have the same superpower as Kat, for the most part. Not saying Kat isn't turning it up a notch, but as far as effectiveness goes, I don't see it as a powerful magic. Almost one to not consider. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Because most of it is done verbally initially, beyond just the physical intimidation Violet feels. It's then the verbal intimidation where she's just like, oh, that thing he does, you're welcome. I'm amazing. And then she's like, look at my bod through the sheer clothes. Violet looks at her and she's like, fuck, she's a smoke show. I hate her. And I'm like, oh, and she's like, she was using her superpowers on you. I'm like, she didn't become more attractive because she heightened your feelings, unless she turned Violet on, and then Violet's like repressed a little bit. She's got some lesbianism, and she's like, oh, it's not me, it's her superpowers. That could be it. I don't know.
Huh. Well, I'm going to have to come to terms with this over the next
book.
Because I've seen enough to be convinced that this is likely it. But it's very useful outside of this. And maybe it's going to be something where she can tell when she's using it or not, similar to her lightning wielding. And she'll know whether or not Xaden is telling the truth because he just is.
Using the signet requires you to channel. There are no passive signets being used.
Yeah, because she'll know that she's channeling in order to do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We haven't seen a passive signet.
In the beginning, with her, she wasn't quite aware, but if she's truly using Truthsayer, she's going to be aware.
Well, the gates were open immediately, right? She hadn't built a way to block out or to control the flow of power coming into her. Once she's developed the skill to channel, then she has to develop the ability to regulate the flow of power going through her. Yeah. She's going to say, I'm opening the door and letting a trickle of Terran's power through, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The same would have to be true of Endarna.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, this makes me feel a lot better about this whole scenario. Do you remember what chapter 30 ended on?
Was this another one of the sex scenes? There's two of them nearly back to back.
Yes. Chapter 30 ended with a sex scene, but no, it didn't actually end with that because Professor Carr was involved during this.
Right.
Yeah.
Carr out of the field practicing, and she's like, I can use lightning 20 times or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. So she's doing that. Xaden sends her cravings. That's what chapter 30 ends on. Chapter 31, Xaden shows up, tells her she started trees on fire and the water wielders had to put them out.
Right.
And I just would find that so embarrassing. Just personally, like, looking out the window.
Sex and the fire department had to get involved.
Yeah.
I can see it being an issue.
Or even just being a water wielder, being like, oh, Xaden and Violet are fucking again. Better get to work.
Yeah, I think it's funny because it's brought up that this needs to get under control. But there's not a lot of effort made for that. It's like they're very willing to risk burning down their whole place. Does that make sense?
Like, I think that's reasonable.
For a 21-year-old kid.
Yeah.
It is.
He's 23.
Well, I meant her, though.
Okay.
The burden of responsibility falls on her for this. He's not creating lightning when he gets off. She is.
But he's the one that says this needs to get under control.
That's what I'm saying. It's a little wild that he's the one that has to bring that up, where he's like, yeah, we got to get this figured out because you keep lighting shit on fire. And she's like, fine, tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll figure it out.
She asked where he went one night, and he was honest with her to a degree, where he said Athebyne. There's a couple different ways this is pronounced. I'm going with Athebyne.
Okay, I was going to go the other way because I think it's B-A-N-E.
B-Y-N-E, Athebyne.
Sorry, that's what I mean. B-Y-N-E.
In the audiobook version, she has Violet pronounce it one way and Xaden pronounce it another way.
Okay. Interesting. Well, colloquialisms. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And I don't speak Celt, so we're stuck.
Oh, is that what he is?
No, I think a lot of these. I think a lot of this is Celtic or in that region, just because of the Y's and the E's and kind of the way it's all spelled. It seems very Scottish almost.
But this is one of the times he's being honest with her, answering it to the degree that he can to keep her and others safe. So I'm not upset with this one. There's ones in the future that I'm a little upset with. One particularly is Cat, but...
To be fair, I don't think it's a problem that he doesn't tell her everything. I think it's an issue when he lies.
Blatantly.
So, yeah, I give him a bit of a pass for, I don't think he should be using omission, but I think I fall in the same spot with him that I did Violet when she was talking with Ree. Just say, I can't tell you that.
And
it's that easy.
And that's what he does in this situation.
And that's what I mean is I give him no fault in this because you can say, this is the information I'm comfortable giving you, not sell it as this is all the information. I like that he does this. And I wish this happened in all of these books because I think in normal human interaction, that's probably the most annoying thing when somebody lies to you and you're like, I would have rather you just said, I'm not going to tell you than you were full of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And around this time with conversations, Xaden finds the fable book and she notices the note from her father. Very cryptic. I tried memorizing it for this, but I can't. There was too much. There's little pieces, and I think that it's vague intentionally to be applied to multiple situations, not just one.
Is this the one where he says all of your friends become enemies?
No, I think that one's Brennan's book.
You're right. You're right. That one was Brennan.
This one was Dad saying by the time that you get this letter, you'll
be a scribe.
Yep. And talking about how it takes one desperate generation to change history. And I think some other things.
Here's my question. If you were writing this letter, is there any point in it being cryptic?
Yes.
I think she solves this mystery, but you're writing it so that if you already know the secret, the whole note makes sense, right? So if somebody who shouldn't find the note read the note, they would know the context with which he was writing it. The only person that can receive this note and not understand it immediately is Violet.
She kind of says that after Brennan died, her dad was more removed and cryptic like this.
Yeah, trying to keep secrets and solve things.
Well, there's a theory that if Dad is dead or Dad disappeared or anything like that, it's all conspiracy because people are out to get him, and it makes sense that he would be cryptic even in this note.
And I do agree with the fact that people were out to get him, right? I think he was on to something, and the CIA came and wiped him out for sure. Because I love conspiracies. And that is probably an awesome part of these. Hopefully the next book we'll get more of. But I'm just saying, if you were going to write a note to your daughter and kind of hide it, I don't think that part needed to be cryptic. I think you could have been pretty blunt in this note and been like, hey, these motherfuckers changed history. Venom are real and they're going to get you. And he was clearly looking into the feather tails for some reason. Like he knew more than what we know at this point.
And you brought this up. Do the Venom also know about the feather tails? Well, wait, the feather tails is just a name for babies. That has nothing to do with Indarna.
Correct. But there's something to do with the way their gifts and things are established. It wouldn't need to be specifically Indarna, although you could argue an egg that's remained unhatched for 600 years is a little suspect. Like, people may be like, listen, are you guys still cooking that thing, or is it hard-boiled now? It's done.
I don't think the humans knew about that egg.
That's a fair point as well. I don't understand how the veil works.
I think it's super high up, and the only way to get up there is to be a dragon.
I wondered if it was like in a pocket dimension. Does that make sense?
I don't think so.
Well, I'm choosing to remain that thought in my brain.
I think they would like it that way. Then they have this whole conversation about where is this going between you and me? And he's like, don't fall in love with me. She calls him out for saying don't fall in love with him despite the actions that he's taking. He's confident she won't fall for him. obvious reasons why now, and probably even more later if he's still lying to her, but
he reads her intentions. He knows. Her intention is still to fall in love with him through this whole thing. Again, it's empty words.
No, he's saying that I took it as he knows she won't fall for him truly if she knew who he was. Because when they're out on the parapet, she says all the right things that comforts him, that eases his fears and worries of her falling for him. But it's still under the guise that she doesn't know all the details that he knows.
I don't disagree with the fact that he knows that if he sprung all this knowledge on her, she would not feel like she was in love with him in that moment. I'm saying he knows where it's going for her. He doesn't only know his own thoughts and feelings in this. He knows hers. So it is a bit of an empty, like, if you hadn't eaten today and I cook birria tacos, and I'm like, don't get hungry for these. And then you're like, but you're making them right there. And I like keep wafting the scent toward you. And I'm like, yeah, but if you knew how much cayenne I put in these, you wouldn't want them. It doesn't matter. Everything I'm doing is still an issue with that. If I really don't want you to have the tacos. You know what I'm saying?
But he wants her.
Yeah.
You also want the birria tacos. You want to eat them with me in this game.
But this is where, can you imagine me actually saying, like, don't want these tacos? And believing that was a possibility. No?
I don't know.
All right.
But that's why she's calling him out on it. She sees it for the same bullshit that you're seeing this as.
She's doing great.
And she's not wrong. She does deserve better in a relationship that's not on his terms. That is more than just superficial.
I agree. I'm agreeing right now. We pat Violet on the back. We're as a unit like, hey, Xaden, dirtbag move right now. We're patting Violet on the back saying, good job, girl. Take care of yourself. Know your value.
Yeah, know your worth. And then when she determines, I do know my worth and I'm going to risk it, that's on me. I'm like, yes, again, if you're willing to do that, at least you're going into it fully aware. Well, as fully aware as you can be.
Yeah, you can't fault Violet in this.
No.
With the knowledge she has, even thinking, oh, well, he has secrets, nobody assumes they're treasonous, you know, which is odd. He's the son of, like, the great betrayer. You might assume that if he says, I got secrets I can't tell you, they may have something to do with the marked ones he's out running around with at places he can't tell you about. He's the son of the guy that attempted to insurrect the current government body. Like, now, again, blinded by love.
But at the same time, if you met someone whose parent was murdered in front of them, would you assume they would follow in their parents' footsteps and also risk being murdered? No, I wouldn't assume that.
I don't know. Maybe not. Listen, I'm not here to beat up on Violet for this one. For this one, I don't care. Violet gets an excuse. She's a 20-something-year-old girl in love. She's doing what she does. And Xaden's a 23-year-old dude who, you know, likes making her make fire. Like, I think they're doing what they can do. Do we wish he was honest? Yes. Would it make the second book less compelling? Also, yes. He's like, your brother's alive. In chapter 6, we'd be like, what the fuck? This book's 9 chapters long.
He already can't lie to her? Why?
This is amazing.
Yeah, the omissions are useful to make it a more interesting book, but she's not wrong on any of her feelings. In these next few chapters, she expresses her feelings a lot, and they all make sense, completely valid. And it made me more Team Violet on my second read-through than the first time.
I agree. I'm harder on Xaden the second time through than I was the first time, because I am so much more in support of Violet, especially toward the latter half of this book. The amount of shit she deals with, even in just these, realistically, 3 chapters of content, right?
From everyone also.
It's every corner. She's getting it from everybody.
Yeah.
And she's, overall, I don't think she makes every decision perfectly. I think she makes every decision reasonably.
Yeah, I would agree. Because, dang it, this is also when Dain is being a twat and also hides things from her.
And she
takes from her.
Dain's dad and her mom. But Dain's dad, she seemed to have some trust with.
Yeah, he
wasn't a dirtbag.
That's essentially her uncle.
That's what I'm saying.
Goodness.
Yeah, she's got a lot going on.
Poor thing.
Yeah.
No, I do feel so much worse for her the second time reading through this than I did the first time.
And then you have Xaden who's piling onto this, and you're like, you knew she was coming. You couldn't have warned her? Like, I thought I had an extra day. You can talk telepathically, and you guys had a 6-hour dragon ride to Athebyne, whatever we want to call it. You didn't feel the need to mention, like, hey, some shit's going to go down. I need you to trust me.
No, I actually understand Xaden's perspective on this one because I think his plan was to do the whole war games like normal. There's a set time to meet. I don't think that he intended for all of them to meet the Griffin Flyers. I think it was supposed to be a drop and then bail. Instead, the Griffin Flyers showed up, ambushed them to give them information.
Correct.
There was never an intention for Violet to see them.
But there's a risk that she could have. And you know when you're being sent to Athebyne, he's suspicious already. That's why he builds his whole team out of marked ones. And did they let that happen? All of the marked ones on one team? Yes. He knew something was up, right? He wasn't surprised when they got the note that they're like, good luck surviving. Colonel Atos.
Yeah.
Like, he knew. He could have at least given her a heads up and like, hey, we were sent here to die.
That's not...
I'll protect you.
That's not part of his character. I guess all of this made sense with his character, that he wouldn't share it if he was under the impression that she would never run into them.
So here's my question. Why bring Violet? So Dain brings up a good point where Dain's like, you're going outside the wards into this very dangerous position. And he's like, she's safer with me outside the wards than she is with you within them.
He's very protective of her.
But does he believe that's true, do you think? Like,
yes.
He also tells her to hang back and leave certain places to protect herself, right? Like when the Griffin Flyers are attacking Montserrat, he's like, we gotta go. He doesn't believe he can protect her there. He thinks that the best method of protection is for her to be not there, even if it is with him. And now he's like, she can wield lightning. She can help me. Therefore, she's safer. I don't know.
I think with his character, again, it follows with the decision that he would make to keep her close.
Okay.
Even if he's hiding her in a location like what they do with Indarna, because they bring Indarna everywhere, but they feel better about keeping Indarna close by but hidden so they can be close to her at all times.
Indarna, it makes sense, though.
But
to me, just because Indarna should never be that far from Terran. Like, Terran is the best chance at Indarna's survival.
I think that's how Xaden views himself to Violet, as the best chance of her survival.
Okay.
And protecting her.
All right, we'll run with it.
Especially to leave her with Dain and trust him with her.
But I think he also knows Dain's intention is never to hurt Violet. Dain's intention is to fuck over Riorson.
Yes.
It is never... His intentions with Violet are so milquetoast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But again, overall, I think all of Xaden's decisions track with the personality that's been given to us.
All right.
Jumping back to 31, they finish that whole conversation. Poor Violet. Then it's several weeks, I think, and it kind of jumps to this point where they're at dinner, and this is one of my favorite scenes where she is taunting him mentally, just fucking with him at the dinner table. I love it because I would do this to you if I knew I could taunt you and fuck with you.
Right, just mentally give him that gluck.
What?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great moment because I like that Xaden gets flustered in this. It's another area where he loses composure, which we treasure these moments in this book, right? Because it only happens 4 times in this whole thing. So it's a big pivotal thing, and it shows Violet's confidence, which I think is probably, for me, the most refreshing thing is Violet has gained mountains of confidence since Pitch and Lightning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true, but yet she still has those moments of insecurities.
It's human.
Yeah, it is really nice to see because you would think she would have all the confidence in the world just being with Terran and Indarna and being lightning wielder, yet she still has the same securities that anybody else has.
And it makes you wonder, if she was more efficient with her signet, do those insecurities still come through? Right now, the major source of insecurity is she can't aim the lightning, right? Because she brings that up in these two, where she's like, I can shoot it 20 times, but I can't fucking hit anything. It's kind of random right now where it goes.
She's at 20 strikes an hour. She points that out in this scene also.
Right. And that's prior, and she's not achieving burnout or even getting close in that 20 strikes an hour. She's not needing medication or anything, mending, whatever. She's killing it. I think what's odd is her source of insecurity is Xaden a little bit, but that's also her source of security. And I really like how that's written because I think that's very true in regular relationships. I would say even amongst you and I care far more about your opinion of me than anything else, right? I am confident in every other area of life, but there are times where if you're feeling less confident in how you're behaving as a spouse or a partner or blah, 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 that is a much bigger thing to you than it is, oh, what does this person think? What does this customer think? Blah, blah, blah. You're like, fuck, they'll get over themselves. And I think I like that that's written this way in the book.
Yeah. And I think that's why their relationship is endearing, relatable.
Yeah.
And his flaw, while irritating, it's relatable to have flaws still love somebody.
It is. What I think makes some of his more difficult for me to swallow is he isn't shown to have that same thought of insecurity outside of giving her omissions of truth. That is where it's really showcased that he's got an insecurity.
And at the end, we get to hear more of his insecurities because he's always putting on this face, this mask, and he does a great job at it. At the end, we get the bonus chapters and we hear his thoughts. And I believe he does express his insecurities and he keeps it to himself and he's holding it in and doesn't want to burden Violet with them.
I guess I need to re-listen to those two because I don't remember the Xaden POV chapters.
Yeah, it's chapter 9, I think chapter 16 is his perspective. But do you think other people know that they can talk to each other?
So this is the thing. I think they must, because they didn't say that it never happens, but they said that it's rare that mated pairs both, couple up with people, right? And I assume if that's the case, it isn't the first case of this happening.
Yeah.
So I would assume that somebody there knows, like Kaori, I would think would know this because he's the one that does the field guide to Dragonkind and all of these things. He's the expert.
Oh, yeah. And we also find out later that they keep them separated distance-wise, too.
They know that that mental bond isn't a boundless telepathy.
But do you think that their friends know?
Oh, no. No, I think the marked ones probably have figured it out a little bit. And I think that weirdly Xaden has been more candid with some of them than Violet has been with her friends, because he doesn't need to keep a bunch of secrets from these marked ones.
He does have deep trust for them than Violet does for her friends.
They're trauma bonded, right?
Yeah.
So they have this very deep, at this point, Liam knows Xaden better than Violet does, right? And Garrick, all of them, they know Xaden. They may not know his sexual preferences the way she does, but they might. We don't know what he's telling them, what he's not telling them. But overall, his bond with them is more intimate than it is with Violet at this point. So if he did mention to them, like, hey, yeah, oh, sorry, Violet's texting me. Well, I wondered why you were getting hard. I mean, it would make some sense to me.
Yeah, I think she mentions Garrick or Liam, somebody notices, and she makes a comment that seems to imply that they know what's going on, or at least it seemed vague enough that I could take it either way. They know that they're talking to each other, or that they know that they have there's tension going on between them.
Yeah, I think that. And the other side of this is, so Liam says, whatever's going on between you two, I can chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? You're loyal to him. You love him, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I do, but I also know shit. Like, he's not going to hurt you, but calm down a little. It's a great moment where Liam cares so much for her that he's kind of willing to give her a bit of a warning.
Yeah.
Again, Liam's the best character in this book. I'm about to be fucking sad.
All over again.
I hate this. I hate this book right at this point.
Then it jumps to Reunification Day. It's the day that all the parents were killed and her brother was killed.
Do you remember what it's called for the marked ones?
No, it was something else. They do give it a different name.
Yeah. I don't remember either. I just remember it being like, oh, it's Massacre Day for the marked ones.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't worry, we gave all the marked ones dragons. Let's celebrate their day. Like, what a ballsy move.
Even when they were coming up with a Reunification Day name, it still just came off so sleazy to call it that, because it was a slaughter that happened.
I don't see it as all that different than a lot of our holidays. If I'm being completely honest, there's huge parallels here, right?
Yeah, you're right.
We have Indigenous Peoples Day that wasn't the day they celebrated the colonists showing up. They weren't like, hell yeah, pilgrims, boy, new day. Take the day off and feast. No. Thanksgiving is another one of those days that isn't marked.
You're right. That's actually, that is a great example. Thanksgiving gives off the same as reunification.
Yeah. Independence Day. You separated from somebody else. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad we did it, but it wasn't exactly like a peaceful arrangement where we were both like, you know what, you guys are on that side of the ocean, we're on this side of the ocean, let's just be separate. It wasn't this amicable separation. It was a real issue. So I would argue the majority of our holidays.
Yeah. That is how this comes off. The reunification name, really sad. They're all expected to be there.
Why is this the first major holiday also we've experienced? Did they not have any before reunification occurred?
I don't know. Yeah, I think they've mentioned other holidays. Like a Christmas one. No, they really didn't.
I don't know. The only way I know what's going on weather-wise is when they describe the stuff that they have to wear to go out and ride dragons.
I have no idea.
They're like, it's cold.
But I forgot until reading this that Liam is there for her.
Yeah, he's a great friend. He's perfect. That's where Liam should have been the love interest. He just didn't get shadows, so he couldn't be the shadow daddy.
And I think he's blonde.
Yeah, he is. He's an enormous blonde, super talented dude who is age appropriate. He's everything he should have been. And that's what makes it so tragic. Because if she would have killed off Xaden in this book instead, honestly, I would not have been as butthurt about it. I'd have been like, well, he served his purpose. Few orgasms down the road. Let's move on to this guy.
I would have been devastated.
I know you would have been. But here's the thing. For what we're each getting out of this book is very different. I'd have been like, Xaden served his purpose. He did great. He taught her how to fight wyvern. Sacrificed himself even. He could die a hero's death. Like Liam did. But Liam dying, it just cut me to my soul. I'm like, no, he's perfect. I want Liam to... Liam should have had all the women. Liam should have had all the men, whatever he wanted.
I don't even know if he got laid.
He did.
He did. Okay, good.
I think so.
Because I think they made jokes about how he's constantly taking care of Violet and protecting her, so he didn't have opportunities.
Yeah, I know. I assume he got laid as much as he wanted. Like, people were just blowing him on the way by. That's what I assume happened. Is he's like, hey, Violet's in her room. I need to stand outside her room. And they're like, not to worry. I can handle it here. And they just blow him. And he's like, thank you kindly. And high fives him. And they move on. That's what I think happened. That's in my head canon.
His last days were incredibly happy.
All of his days. He deserves for every day he ever had to be perfect. The sun never set on Liam Mari.
Well, in chapter 31...
I'm so sad now thinking about it.
I know. I'm trying to move it along.
All right, go forward.
They're back in class, and they're discussing the increase of cadets, or the increase of killed riders by gryphons, but there's no discussion about the skill level of gryphons in any of this.
Again, they are really controlling the information they're giving, right? They're the North Korea of fantasy books. They're like, our great leader, whatever his name is, what's his name again? Starts with Markham?
Yeah.
They're like, our great leader,
Melgren.
Melgren, yeah. The great leader Melgren is basically a god. Right? He does no wrong. There are no poor people here. They go to the villages and there's just like random little frontages set up so it looks like grocery stores are flourishing and everybody's smiling, but they're crying a little bit through it. Finally, 3 marked ones show up so he can't see what the fuck's going on and they just break down. They're like, oh my God, I haven't eaten in a week. We used to have goats. We had to eat them. The dragons came and ate the rest of them. It was bullshit. They don't pay us for the goats. It's really cool. King Towery, right? He's just like an overlord, but he's technically not as important as Melgren.
He's a rider.
King Towery?
Yeah.
No.
I think so.
No, it's illegal for royalty to join the military outside of, I think, infantry. They are not allowed in the rider squadron. And that's where we get, not Olaf. Ulrich. Yeah.
Okay, never mind. There was some woman that talked about in Iron Flame, there's a reference to his signet on, like, a handkerchief.
Oh, an insignia.
Insignia is probably what it was.
Yes. An insignia would make sense. Signet on a handkerchief would be awesome. What is this? This is a magic handkerchief I got for being the king. What does it do? It never needs washed.
I took it as where they have the little patches on them to reference their signet, that the king had one in the basement. Yeah.
Okay.
But I was just taking this from some video where some girl is saying something very vague, little information. I'm like, oh, he's a writer? Oh my God. Interesting.
Yeah. No. The only reason I knew it wasn't is it is specifically discussed how basically anybody involved heavily in politics is not allowed to become a writer. But I would say that the way that the king's position works seems to be different than, let's say, the king is a monarch, but he's not the end-all be-all as far as power goes, right? It's kind of like prime minister, king or queen. And
yes.
England, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Where it's more of a figurehead position than it is useful. And that's where I think we got General Melgren, who is actually the top dog, because it's a military state. Like, it's a straight-up police state.
Yeah.
This is actually a sad tale of slowly people being liberated, but also murdered, but also being subjugated in a different way, because even the rebellion is another police state. It's just got different rulers. They have a round table, so to speak, which isn't really round. It's got a little nipple on it that Xaden sits at. He's like, it's my house and my decisions. And they're like, then why are we all voting? Like, fuck you. But,
well, we need to wait till we get to that, because I think I disagree with you, but I don't have enough details to disagree with you on that one yet.
I think it's okay that you do disagree with me. I'm very possibly wrong.
Anyways, they're in class. Violet starts reeling through her insecurities. Completely relatable. And she's questioning why Xaden doesn't want her. Why doesn't he want to make this decision to move forward? And then she thinks that there's another woman. And his answer is so irritating because he doesn't say no. He says, I don't want to talk about this. And obviously then she's just like, fuck, there is another woman. Who is it? Oh, it's Imogen. Again, incredibly rational mindset in my point of view.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm with Violet in this. I would immediately assume there is somebody else, right? But I think what sucks is Xaden's response is so shitty in this, where she's like, it's Imogen. I know it is. And he's like, it's not Imogen. She's into the other guy. But he doesn't even directly say she wants to fuck Garrick.
This is later.
Says, think of the other person that was in all these situations. And I'm like, you could have just said she's into Garrick, dipshit, and then move forward. Like, why drag this out?
I was a little hard on him on this when listening to it the second time. But the third time listening, when they're out on the parapet, because that's when they have the conversation of her insecurity about who is the other woman, he says something to the effect of, even if she was into me or wanted me, it doesn't even matter because there is only you, Violet. Which I think is a fair take. It doesn't matter if Imogen is into him or not.
It does. I had to learn this the hard way, right? Just because you may be recognizing something as a different feeling than what the person you're interacting with, the burden of responsibility of maintaining your relationship is on you. If her concern is that Imogen is too much in Xaden's business and wants to climb him like a tree, it is up to Xaden to address this issue, not just with Violet, but with Imogen. Be like, hey, let's clear this shit up right now.
Imogen hasn't done anything other than just look at him longingly, and that could be assigned to her looking at Garrick every single time.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you.
There's nothing that Xaden needs to do about Imogen because Imogen isn't doing anything. She's literally just existing, and Violet's getting jealous of her. And even if she did like Xaden, it doesn't even matter because she's not acting on it, doing anything. And Xaden can't do anything about that.
Xaden, I'm not suggesting Xaden is doing something wrong to cause this. It's not like, Xaden, you're wearing your tunic too tight. You know, that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm saying is Xaden's responsibility in this is to assuage Violet's negative feelings. That's where Xaden's responsibility is. It isn't for him to police Imogen's thoughts. It is, what can I do to comfort Violet?
And I think he does in this moment by saying...
She's into Garrick.
I answered this 2
This
seconds
is
ago.
that moment. Okay.
No. When he says, none of it even matters what anybody else thinks because these are my feelings for you. It's all about you. It's always been about you. I can't stop thinking about you. All those moments.
And I'm not suggesting that he's doing anything wrong here. I'm just saying if he knows Imogen's intentions are with Garrick, why wouldn't you help assuage this with a tool you have to help reassure Violet beyond just the confidence in plan A? Give her what you can, not what you need to. Doing the minimum of making her feel better versus giving her a little extra. You know what I mean in that sense?
I guess I thought he did.
I think I'm not saying he did anything wrong. I want to make this super clear. I feel like we're sort of walking by each other, you know, little ships in the night, so to speak, on this one. I think what's going on is I see it as he left the whole Imogen is into Garrick thing kind of on the table for a while. And he could have done both. Been like, first of all, I only have eyes for you. I don't care what anybody else's thoughts are. And as far as Imogen goes, she's really into Garrick. He's like, but it wouldn't matter who she's into. I'm into you. And I think that would have been it would have been a preferred method for me, but that's not saying that he did anything wrong.
I guess what I got from the chapter was he did do that.
I didn't think he did it in this moment, I guess.
I think in the moment in the classroom, he was being a twat. Out there on the parapet, I think he eased all her fears also, and vice versa, and came clean and open and addressed it more appropriately.
Okay, and that is exactly what I was saying, is the moment in the classroom is where I take issue, not the moment on the parapet.
Okay.
I'm taking issue with, in the classroom, you let her be concerned and then kind of blew her off. And then later on, it was like, well, this will assuage your thoughts or make you feel better.
Well, what if in that moment what Xaden is feeling is they just finished this conversation that they didn't just finish it, that they aren't going to go anywhere. And she keeps prying and he's just like, no, because I told you my terms and if you can't meet me on my terms. And then it's later that he eases his terms.
She Stockholm syndromes him a bit in this, which is fair. I'm actually super stoked to see a female character be the one chasing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In lieu of normally where it's like the male character seems aloof and reluctant and then they're like, oh, and then they're always like up their ass about everything. In this one, it's Violet is sniffing his booty all the time and he's like, I told you stop it. No, I have secrets. You want honesty? I can't be honest with you. Fuck off. And she's like, let's fucking be honest. And he's like, no, I'll fuck you, but we're not doing honesty. And she's like, no, come on. And he's like, I'll be a little honest. And she's like, I'll let you fuck a little. Like, I do enjoy their exchange in this. But no, I see where you were coming from now. I thought we were just talking about the classroom thing.
And I thought we were talking about the parapet the whole time.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Miscommunication. See, ships in the night.
And there we go. Anyways, they finish that up. She gets dressed. She's looking amazing. They go out. She is with Liam. We already talked about the sacrifice that Liam is making for her to be there. They introduce to people. She sees her mom. I think her take on her mom is also fair, given the information that she has. Her mom could have taken time to pull her aside and talk to her in some way, but what's done is done, and her mom never did.
Yeah.
What do you think of the whole interaction between the king and Liam and everybody there?
I don't know why the king's so fucking confident he wouldn't be killed in a room with 100 fucking marked dragon riders. Like, he has big old kingly nuts. Because there's no fucking way that he should have been that confident. And Liam handled it with such grace. I think Liam is perfect and the king should have died. But I'm a little emotional, to be fair. The way that also Violet took so long to realize what the day was really about for them kind of bugged me a little bit, but it's not a bad thing with Violet. I think it's super accurate that sometimes when we have stuff going on in our world, we really do place the importance on our own shit. And I think that when she took the time to realize, like, oh my God, this is hard, but you're here. You don't need to be here. I can't fucking believe Xaden would do this to you. And he's like, Xaden would never make me do this. I'm here for you. I think it's just such a pure...
It is, and I also think that for the past how many years, it's been all about her brother and everyone around her celebrating a positive, propaganda-fueled event. And this is her first time looking at it through a different angle.
Okay, I would agree with that. I have a final question on this, though. So she's lived in Besgaeth since she was 16, correct?
Yeah.
And this is her 5th year living there. And this is the Marked One's 3rd year being there. Do they keep all of the civilians and all of the riders separate at Besgaeth?
I'm under the impression that they are.
Okay. Well, then that makes a big difference. I thought this event was kind of like hey, every year we have this huge party and it's everybody in Besgaeth is here. Because I think the scribes are there, right? Some infantry people, because they talk about like, oh, what, these people like to fuck, right? These people like to fuck riders, right? But I didn't know if that extended to whatever Violet would have been.
I think it's like a military ball. Like, we all can celebrate Christmas and holidays off base, but on base, there is a ball and we cannot go.
But if we lived there, I think is where I'm getting at.
On base?
She lives on the base. She lives in the base, right? As just a civilian to her mother, who is the 3rd most high-ranking person in the entire country.
I don't know. The only time that I would have gone to the military balls, I chose not to because I found them dumb.
No, I hear you.
So I don't know. I guess, I don't know if civilians can go because the only way to be on base is if you're related, and she is related.
Well, so I'm saying she would have been the child of the general, the 2nd highest up.
Yeah, I would assume that she goes to these.
That's, I just found it kind of interesting that there wouldn't have been more of a, like...
Maybe because...
You're probably right.
Maybe it's you got to be 20 or older to attend.
No, that's probably true.
We can add rules to this.
In a weird spot there. Is she 22 now?
I don't know.
They're graduating.
I would assume she's 21 because she started at 20.
I thought she started at 21. Fuck, I'm never going to get this right.
It's okay.
All turned around.
It's at the end of this chapter that Dain touches her face and calls her beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is shitbag Dain move. Dain's clearly trying to look into her brain and sniff around in there and see what he sees.
It shows his skill level because before it would have been like a full palm on her face, and now it's just like a little touch.
Yeah, he's clearly improved. And again, to be fair, it's easy to forget what an incredible writer Dain is in this book, because he's continuously overshadowed by the one person that makes him look inept. But for the most part, he is an absolute unit in every sense of the word. His signet is top secret. He's clearly developed amazing skills for that. And I'm sure that comes from him needing to be trained one-on-one, like Violet is, because other people aren't allowed to know how it works. So he spent a lot of time with Carr, I'm assuming. He's hand-to-hand combat very skilled. His whole military persona, he is the perfect sleeper agent, really.
Goodness, yeah. Well, also a garbage human being.
He is absolutely a shitbird. From here, for quite a while, we get to hate Dain again.
Chapter 32, she realizes she's in love with Xaden. They're on the parapet. This scene we have definitely talked in depth over of how we feel about it. Turns out we're on the same page,
She's in a dress running across it in the winter now.
Yes. Something about this is Xaden says he can wield shadows to save himself, but what is she going to do if she falls?
He's not saving her.
Yeah.
She's throw some lightning and hope it cushions the impact.
Yeah, why wouldn't you save her, Xaden?
Well, listen, I think it's totally appropriate that he's like, you need to have a fucking plan besides me.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, that is better.
But also, he knows Venandarna can stop time. So he could also just be like, what are you going to do? Throw lightning? She's like, no, I started the trip. I would stop fucking time, grab the side of the mountain or anything. Be fine. Don't worry about me.
When she's going out on the parapet, she makes a mental note about if Taran were to find out, he'd be upset. He's like, already am. Is he on his way there, or is he trusting Xaden?
He's trusting Xaden with this one where he's like, the wing leader will, masturbate her to safety or whatever it is she needs to do. I think he trusts Xaden with this, but I think he is as annoyed with her reckless bullshit as I am.
And at this point, he has not confessed to her. At this point, he is still trying to hold in all of his feelings. And I think it is a little fitting that he's not offering to rescue her because he's under the impression that this is not going to be a thing.
So he values her life not at all.
No, I'm just giving him a pass.
Here's the thing. You will give Xaden passes, and that is super acceptable because it's your baby. And however you want to take it all is how it should be taken.
But I did notice that he wasn't offering to use his shadows for her.
Yeah, no, he was straight up like, fend for yourself, fucking dork. It's very odd.
So she confesses her love, confesses her jealousy. Xaden says he only has eyes for Violet, fell for her the first time he saw her. I don't think to the degree that he thinks he did, because there were some times that I think that he should have been a little more obvious, but he's also very possessive, and he was jealous of Dain when he kissed her.
Yeah, I like that he appreciates that there's honesty needed here. I do know the jealousy. You kissed Atos. Fuck that guy. He does not like Dain, which is completely fair. Nobody should like Dain, but he's got a real special hate boner for Dain, right? And a big part of that seems to be Violet. What I love is when he's like, I fell in love with you the first time I saw you. What? Why? What about her outside of her interesting hair? When you glanced across and saw her struggling across the parapet, were you like, that's the one? Come on.
I don't know. He does say that he fell for her much sooner than she ever realized. Much sooner than... just much sooner than she ever realized. But in this moment, he's saying, I fell in love with you the first day that I saw you.
The moment I saw you.
Yes. And Darna knew about Violet long before they met. I wonder if Xaden knew about Violet. And we kind of do know that because of the deal between him and her mom. But does he know how intelligent she is? Which you have said that is what he finds attractive in her.
I hope. Yeah, this is the moment that refutes that for me a bit. In the aspect of where he's like, I saw you. It wasn't when I got to know you. When I, understood who you are.
I think I would be hurt if someone said, I fell in love with you after I got to know you. So, no, on that one. That would hurt.
I think you find people attractive initially. You don't love them based off of an aesthetic.
You better have fallen in love with me when you first saw me.
Yes, here's the thing. I thought you were an absolute smoke show. You turned out to be funny and smart and wonderful in all of these other ways. I have loved and adored you since the moment I heard you speak. But when I saw you, I appreciated what you looked like. They are different things. Love is not so shallow.
All right. Yeah. I see what you're getting at, but...
You love Henry Cavill.
No, but in this moment...
Good.
In this moment, I think that it would have been fair that she would have been hurt if he said, after I got to know you. It just didn't fit in this moment.
It's not romantic. Realism is not romance.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. I have no qualms with it. I'm just poking for fun.
Yeah. Ruining the moment.
Am I really?
No, you're not.
Oh.
When he confesses his love for her.
He's like, I love you so much I can be 80% honest with you, baby. She's like, well, what if I fall off a hill? He's like, you'll throw lightning, it'll be fine.
So she's very confident and forward, tells him what she wants, which I admire. I don't have that personality, and I wish that I could be a confident, forward individual like Violet.
In what way? What do you mean? I would argue you're pretty confident and forward with me.
With you, but nobody else.
But that's her to Xaden, not her to anybody else either.
She is that way with others. She's that way with Taryn. She's that way in class. She's that way when she needs to make decisions on what they need to do. Like, this is my plan.
Like she needed encouraged, right? When it came to like stealing the map, she's like, I have a crazy idea. And everybody's like, what is it? She's like, no, it's too crazy. And then they're like, come on, Sorengale, spit it out. Give us your awesome plan. And she's like, oh, it's pretty crazy, but hear me out. Like, it wasn't a, fuck you guys and your dumbass ideas. Mine is going to be an absolute showstopper. Check this out. She does use the term showstopper, but that was after she was encouraged.
All right.
I would say she needs encouraged. And the way she interacts with Taryn, you cannot use that as a basis for her personality in entirety. She seems to think dragons are the most forgiving species because she interacts this way with all the dragons where she's just like, I'm a person and they're a dragon, but we're just coexisting. Not to worry, they won't start me on fire. Again, her second signet may be fireproof. We don't know. The way she acts, it could be.
Well, they confess. She's forward about her feelings. I love it. They go bang one out.
He's like, suck me, beautiful.
Yeah.
She's like, fine. She's like, I'm not wearing much underneath this. And he's like, I know. I can pretty much see what's going on. Like, not to worry. You're not hiding daggers in that bad boy. I enjoyed that part where she was just like, I couldn't hide my leathers under this. And I'm like, okay, all right, this makes sense. Imagine somebody's wearing their like fighting leathers underneath a ball gown. Like, you're sending a very different message.
She says something in her head, I'm going to die right here in this bed. And he replies, then I'm going to die with you.
Yeah. What do you think her intention was there?
I know. It sounds like it's more than intentions that he can read. Like full on, I can hear the last sentence that you think or something like that. I don't know.
It's a verbatim stream of thought awareness.
Yeah.
It is not intentions. That's the thing that always cracks me up. I can read their intentions. Her intention is to die in this bed. Like, I don't think that's actually her intention. She means I want to come 5 times.
What if he only... No, I don't know.
What if it's only with her?
No. I took the intentions as a way of saying why he was able to handle the second signet better than other full intensics. By it being labeled intentions, it was a way of saying that it's not as intense of streams of thoughts from everyone around him.
I think that could be true, other than the way it's described and how it's used is not intentions.
Yeah, the way that it's used, and this was why I wrote this one down, it was very blatant. She says, I'm going to die right here in this bed, and he knows where she's going to die, where she thinks she's going to die, and he places himself also in that same location.
She clearly doesn't mean, her intention is not to die there. Her intention is to come undone, right?
Yeah, and I think he picked up on that intention.
No, this is what I'm saying is if her intention was to just, be like, oh my God, it's going to be incredible. My mind is going to be blown.
I see what you're saying. Her intention with that statement would not naturally have that reply.
Correct. Yeah. The statement is a colloquialism, more or less. And the way he read it was as if it were a literal statement, opposed to what the actual intention of the statement would have been. That would be like if somebody's like, nice hair, Ryan. And they were being sarcastic. And I'm like, I can read your intentions. Thank you. Like, I don't think so. That's not how that works.
Yeah, because the intention would have been a fuck
Snarky,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is where, obviously, I think it's the same thing.
Can he shield her lightning?
Yeah, he can stop the lightning with the shadows, I think.
It was confusing. I didn't know if he did a full shield or he knew it was coming and he rotated her and moved them out of the way.
So here's where the shadow thing gets odd to me. They are not non-corporeal shadows. They are ostensibly dark air, right? It's kind of where we're at with this. He's an airbender with where light goes through it. It's pollution. I don't fucking know. But it's able to snuff out fire. It's able to physically interact with knives. I'm assuming it's able to absorb the plasma from her lightning as well.
I don't know.
From what we've seen.
I want you to go back to this scene.
This sex scene? No.
Yeah.
There's 3 of them in the last 6 chapters. I can't do more.
I know where it's at, though. I want to know if he can shield lightning.
All right.
Or if he just can dodge it.
He's faster than lightning?
There was a close attack, and I didn't know how they avoided it.
He's out there dodging strays. All right. You know what? I'll re-listen to it.
Yeah. End of chapter 32. Something happened where lightning was coming in and he evaded it. I don't know.
Honestly, I will dig into this because now if that is the case, this changes everything.
Yeah.
His second signet is actually super speed. Or he's got foresight. Like either he knows where the lightning will be, or he is fast enough to dodge lightning.
Or he's a sex god and he knows exactly the moment she's about to come.
That wouldn't help you with the lightning. She's starting trees on fire. She's not coming on the tree and then fire hits it.
When she comes, lightning strikes.
But it strikes in random places. That's why the sheets and everything else on fire. He could be a sex god, but having the ability to know where the super splooge is going to send the lightning is a whole different thing. I'm just like, oh man, we got to get this under control. I'm the only person that she can ever fuck because they'll get chicken fried in a minute. What the fuck is happening?
There's all kinds of signs that they are endgame for each other. 1, nobody else can fuck Violet.
They could if she could figure this shit out a little bit.
Well, I don't know.
Near water, I guess.
And number 2 is because there is no way another dude would be okay with her having a mental link with this handsome man.
Yeah, if you can see past his handsomeness, I think that you could potentially, if he was this great dickhead of a human being, you could just feel bad for her for having that mental link. Your trust to her should not intrinsically be tied to her ability to communicate with another dude.
Yeah, but when your girlfriend's ex has a mental link where they can secretly message each other all the time and you have no idea.
Avery, I don't look at your text messages. It's not a big difference. If you still had his phone number, I don't think that it would preclude me from being satisfied with you. Does that make sense?
I think
the trust in you is what makes this valuable.
Well, then I'm a psycho because I would be so insecure if you had a mental link with someone as attractive as Kat is described.
I'm not.
And that she is still into you and probably sending you messages and your dragons are fucking?
All right, listen. I hear what you're saying. But to be fair, she almost fucked Liam the first time the dragons were fucking. It isn't a specific I want to fuck Xaden when the dragons fuck. She's going to climb whatever tree's nearest.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I am not suggesting you are wrong. I would also be insecure, partially because what I am not attributing this to is somebody that is Xaden Riorson, who is so good looking he gets a pass on all of the shit we've talked about.
Yeah.
If you're able to give somebody that much of a pass because they're that handsome, yeah, that person is threatening that they exist. I'll be completely honest. In lieu of being like, hey, you're talking to your ex-boyfriend, that's one where you're right. You don't date that girl.
She can't be with anyone else.
Here's the thing.
She has to make it work with Xaden.
Or she could be with other people in very surface level relationships. I think we do see that happen.
I guess your relationship would have to be full trust that she constantly has that shield up.
Or you just would have to be one of those people that doesn't really value that relationship any further than the surface.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of people that, if you're dating, you're just like, this is for fun. It's not for a deep, deep connection.
I also don't think I could be in a relationship with someone who has a superpower of truthsayer. Because it's not the idea of lying, just the whole idea of...
A lack of omission ability would be tough.
No, it's not really that. It's just more that they could use it on you before you just are open with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I honestly don't think it would affect me all that much. I think the biggest thing is it would piss me off because I'm not an oversharer. So starting the relationship would be the hard part, not being in it.
Yeah.
Developed that. Like if you develop the signet Truesayer today, it doesn't change my life a lot.
Yeah.
If you had that signet and when we were first dating, it's not so much that it was like, oh, Ryan's going to keep a bunch of secrets. It's more like, oh, there is an element of my choice that is taken away. And again, I'm not an oversharer. I don't like the idea that people just know your business. That alone would piss me off.
Yeah. These signets really complicate relationships, especially Truesayer and an intrinsic kind, because Farsight, that I don't think would complicate a relationship.
I don't know. You're walking down the street. There's a nice ass 2 miles up there. Zoomed in. He's like yoga pants, 3 o'clock. 3 clicks that way. He's zoomed in. I don't know. I think Heaton Signet is the one that's real crazy.
That wouldn't complicate relationships, though.
Could complicate things. Every time you go swimming, are they fucking that fish? You don't know. They're part fish. The octopus in the deep.
No.
Boys.
No.
No?
No. I like Heaton, and you won't do that to them.
The deep isn't a bad guy.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
The octopus is super willing.
like his third scene in the TV show is, we're not getting into him. We're not getting into the deep. We are not comparing Heaton to the deep. Okay. Heaton is a lovely person.
Aqua person. He's an aqua person. We'll say that.
The deep?
No. Heaton. Heaton's aqua person. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I think that would be fair. I don't know what they're called, but either way.
Guild people doesn't seem correct.
Rhiannon's, I don't think hers would complicate a relationship.
They can give you short-term memory loss?
No, that's Imogen's.
Oh, sorry.
Rhiannon's is retrieval.
Nope, you're right. That one's perfect. There's absolutely nothing bad that can come from that one.
No, I think that was fine. Imogen's, yeah, that was problematic.
It would be the hardest one for me to deal with.
Yeah.
I couldn't trust myself. That would tear me up.
Do you remember in Doctor Who, there was this one thing that every time you looked at the thing and you looked away, you would forget that you looked at it. And so then they started marking themselves. If every time that you were around her, you just have a moment of, wait, what happened in the last 15 minutes? So you put a mark on yourself. And eventually you look down, you see all the marks of the moments that you forgot the last 15 minutes of over the past how many?
And it looks like a whole fleet of third graders are playing tic-tac-toe on your arms.
Yeah.
You're like, I've lost 17 weeks of my life. What the fuck? No, I think Imogen's would be the hardest one for me to deal with.
That would be difficult.
The rest of them affect how much you trust the other person. And with Imogen's, you wouldn't be able to trust yourself. And I think that would be the most difficult.
Well, that's sad. I hope she finds someone.
She does.
Who is she with?
She's going to pick Cat because that would be awesome. No?
That would be a badass power couple.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, wow. That would be awesome. I don't know if Imogen would be into Cat. Yeah, she would.
Everybody's hot. Cat. Not only is Cat hot, but Cat is super smart.
Yeah.
Cat is just sexier Violet without the lightning.
And Imogen is just female Xaden. She's definitely Xaden's type.
Saying. Yeah, they would be amazing together.
All right, I'm holding out on that one. Chapter 33, they're headed out to formation. They were just banging, so she slips on his leathers really quickly. He doesn't want to see her cold. And she's like, oh yeah, this is exactly how it needs to be. Nobody's going to notice. And then some people actually don't notice, which is really shocking because I also assume it's really, really big on her.
Yeah, the way it's described is he's a foot taller than she is. And he is broad as fuck in 2/3 of these scenes. So it's like a triple XL on a extra small woman.
Yes.
Yeah. It should be pretty obvious. She's wearing a full-on, like a blazer duster. That's what I was thinking.
She tries to push back a little bit on Rhiannon when Rhiannon's calling her out on it. She's like, oh, really? And yeah. But anyways, so she does that. Rhiannon is a great friend, hides the little stars or whatever that's on it.
Yeah, but like draping her over. She's like, hey, what's up, girl? And she's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm making it not obvious that you're wearing the wing leader's coat. And she's like, why would you think it's a wing leader? She's like, well, it says wing leader across. You know?
It really says Xaden on the back.
Fourth wing and wing leader. Those two things only mean one person. About it's like, I didn't notice. I was in a hurry. And I'm like, but Xaden's unaware of what's on his coat? Or is Xaden giving it to her kind of like a Letterman's jacket? Where you're like, it's fine.
I think that moment was equivalent to giving the girl.
Possessive. It's good.
Yeah.
I don't think
Dain, oblivious, he doesn't pick up on this extra large jacket that she's wearing.
Yeah, her duster. I stand by it. It's just a duster on her. It's huge.
The war games begin, and they're going to Athebyne. They pointed out that Heaton has purple flames dyed into their hair. I thought that was so cool, because we don't get to know much about Heaton, but this is their moment. They get to have awesome hair, even though we don't get to use their signet yet.
That's true. And the irony of it being fire while they breathe water is pretty funny. Like, I was going to do bubbles, but it didn't look intimidating.
Xaden and Imogen know something is up because Imogen reacts in a very flat-toned way. It is not the reaction I would have expected from Imogen unless she knows that something is up with that location. Xaden, I think he also knows something's up. As we pointed out, he is bringing together all of the marked ones into this super group.
He assembled the Avengers.
Yes. Dain realizes as they're getting ready to leave, he says, I want Violet and Liam for obvious reasons for their superpowers.
Hold on. He does not say that. He says, I want Violet. And Xaden says, why do you think you deserve Violet? And he's like, she's a first year, blah, blah, blah. And Xaden's like, you didn't say shit about Liam.
Yep.
And that's where Dane's like backpedaling a little bit. He's like, yeah, but Liam's like, numero uno in the first year. He's fine. He'll be tough. You got him. And he's like, Violet throws fucking lightning and she's safer with me out there than she is with you.
I don't know if Dain says it, but she can aim.
Nobody brings that up. Everybody is like, she can throw lightning. But to be honest, if you had a 1 in 20 chance of being struck by lightning, Emily also would be a little cautious, to be honest. Even if she's not good at it, the odds are eventually she's going to hit somebody. She did with that other guy. We know it's Jack Barlow, but I mean, some of the other people are just like, she can't aim that well. And somebody's like, try telling that to the cooked guy that fell off the mountain a few weeks ago. Like, eventually it hits you.
Well, Dain realizes in this moment that they're banging. It's this whole epiphany of like, oh my God, because she touches his arm, Xaden's arm, and Xaden looks at her, and it's like this moment all happening in front of him.
I like to think that she thought it was his arm and it was just his cock. She just reaches over and touches his cock. She's like, it's fine. And Dane's like, oh, Jezebel. That's what I think.
Is that the jacket from earlier?
Jacket? Isn't jacket him off? Is that what's happening? No, Violet, how dare you?
Oh my God.
You're supposed to be my sweet little virgin wife when I was done with whatever I'm doing at this college.
Well, he says, I miss you to her.
He said, I will see you.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't see this as a definitive he knew where they were going to die.
I was just going to say that. I don't think he truly thought they were going to their death. I think he thought it was going to be maybe more challenging than everybody else's.
I think he looked at it and said, she made a choice and I'm not crawling back to her. She's now with this guy. I will miss you. What we had is dead now. That's what I took it as. Because that's that situation.
I think this really hinges on his reaction when she comes back. I don't remember what his reaction was. If it's shock that she came back, or is it still the apathy, we are done, like you're saying right now?
So I think it kind of gets in. We'll have to review this after we get into that chapter of this next week. But I think what's happening when she comes back is everybody's more shocked by what they went through, right? Because as far as they were aware, they were attacked by gryphons. Not venom there. And everybody's like, holy fuck, you survived a full-on battle with these gryphons that destroyed Athebyne, right? Like, yeah. I think even if he was aware of the other stuff going on, it would be covered by the shock of that. So I don't know that we get a definitive perspective from Dain. Actually, I could use a Dain chapter. As much as I fucking hate him, I could use a Dain chapter.
I would like that. Even a flashback one to know how good of friends they were and see how much is actually
Tell me
really
what happened when you
lost.
Climbing trees. That's what give me something to like you.
I do have the question, if Xaden knows something is up, why bring Violet? And we hit on this, and I think that I landed on because he finds it the best way to protect her by keeping her close.
Yeah. I think we just agreed to disagree on this one.
That's fair, because it makes sense to also not bring her.
I think, yeah, like I said, the way I landed on this was it was a selfish decision, and I don't think he's immune to those. It doesn't make him a bad character. It makes him human. But I think it's a selfish thing.
Going into chapter 34, it starts with an excerpt about the reunification and that the first griffin attacks were within 1 year of the reunification. That's a big red flag. I didn't pick up on this the first time reading, but the second time that should be a big red flag to the scribes that whatever happened on reunification created this problem. Why are the griffins attacking?
Yeah.
So they fly into the morning and afternoon to a mountain near Athebyne, and that's when they land at a lake, and the outpost that they're going to is considered one of the most dangerous and outside of the wards.
It does seem like a great place to bring your girlfriend. Keep her safe. I don't know.
She has a badass dragon. She's going to be fine.
She'd be fine anywhere if the defense is her dragon will keep her safe. Wherever she went, that's true.
And at this point, she has the saddle, so she's not falling off. Taryn can take care of her everywhere and anywhere.
I don't disagree. I'm saying his reasoning for saying she's safer with me there than you there. That's a really throwing smoke at the other dragon riders going to a safer place as well.
This could also have Taryn involved in the decision of her going with, because Taryn makes a comment when Xaden walks up. Taryn says something to the effect of, this is how it needs to be.
I think Taryn and Sigale, or I think Xaden and Sigale already had this conversation mentally, and Taryn was apprised by Sigale, and then Taryn's relaying it to Violet.
Yeah.
Is my guess of what's happening. Because I think Taryn was like, no, fuck that, I'm not taking my lady there, because she's frail. Like, no, until she learns to wield her lightning a little more reliably, we're not going into danger. She doesn't need to be a part of this Griffin Flyer bullshit. She can...
Taryn doesn't know that the Griffins are going to be there a day early.
Correct, but these war games are not expected to only last a day, right? Like, they are expected to take time. It is literally these people practicing battles, wars, things that don't take place over the course of 20 minutes. So I don't think that Taryn is shocked in the same sense of like, oh, Violet found out about this. I think he's shocked that Violet found out about this right now.
Oh, are we going back to when she found out about the Griffin Flyers?
Well, no, we'll get into that later. What I'm saying is, as far as Taryn, what I believe Taryn's point of view on this would be is, it would be safer for Violet not to go with them. And I think Sigale was like, no, Xaden and I discussed this. She's fucking going with us. And then he's like, this is how it needs to be for now. Sigale's explained it to me. I'm sure there was nuance, right? But I assume that because dragons are also non-omniscient, there are moments where they need to discuss things and come to terms. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
It comes off as though he wasn't immediately in agreement with Sigale and them. It came off as though he was convinced this is the way it should be for now. When he says we're going with them, right? Like, don't argue. It's the way it should be.
Yeah.
It doesn't come off like he was on board through the entire process.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. And it makes sense because even later, he still seems upset about how everything's happening. While they're at the lake, she's talking with Liam. Liam asks, how is she doing? And she doesn't answer his question. She just starts mentally talking with Taryn and Indarna about her safety. And Liam's just there waiting for her to respond.
She's so fucking rude. Like, this is in this moment, imagine you and I are in the middle of a conversation and you just start texting somebody, like in the middle of it, and I'm just waiting patiently for you to finish what's going on. And then you're just over there.
That's exactly what it was like. And then he checks in with her and she gives this answer. And then she starts doing it again, but this time with Xaden. She looks over here and she starts having a mental conversation with Xaden. And Liam is just waiting patiently. And then he asks, like, are you okay? And she's like, gives the same answer as before. I found her just really funny.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm just saying, in real life, this would be a very rude thing for you to do.
I think she's just kind of zoned out and he realizes that she's not doing okay because she's really having a hard time being present.
Well, yeah, but at this point, too, this is before anything really bad's happened. She's just concerned about the war games. It hasn't yet occurred to her that everybody around her is a marked one. That doesn't even occur to her until the Griffin Flyers show up. Until then, she's just on this mission with Xaden and them, and around all of her best friends, outside of Rhiannon.
Yeah.
Like, I think her having a mental struggle in this moment makes less sense to me. Because there isn't any traumatic event happening right now. They stopped for water for the dragons. Like, you're in your chill time. She's probably just trying to find a good tree to fuck Xaden in.
And they do. He does pull her aside. I thought that they were banging one out by this rock. I don't actually think so, because he's talking about how tight her muscles are. So I thought he just goes down on her and starts taking care of her there. No, that's not what he's doing. He's just massaging her legs. I think he's getting ready to go down on her, but that doesn't actually happen.
They get interrupted.
They do, because I thought when the Griffin Flyer shows up, they saw her completely nude because she says, why hide what's already been seen? And
oh, you took that as her naked body in lieu of it being Violet Sorengale.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she was clothed. Her pants were on. Nothing was happening like that. She was just getting a massage.
An innocuous massage.
Just professional massage between a cadet and their wing leader.
Yeah. Well, there's the other thing that I love that nobody really, like, they address it in the beginning and they really stop eventually. They're like, there's a power dynamic here that we don't want to acknowledge.
Other than she's a badass now, so there isn't a power. She kind of has
if
the
he
power.
Can block her lightning, no offense, that power dynamic doesn't exist for him.
You need to go back and look that one up. But her mom is also the general.
I'm not disagreeing. And if her mom was fucking Xaden, I would say there's a power dynamic issue here. I'm 100% on board with you. That would have been funny too.
There's a moment when he tells her, I've been yours longer than you can imagine. And this is that moment, because earlier he says, I fell in love with you when I first saw you. And he says, I've been yours longer than you can imagine. And I just wonder what that might mean. Is it earlier than they actually met, or was it truly when they first met there?
Yeah, I have no guess. I took this as platitudinal loving statements.
It probably is.
It could be, and I'm guessing you're right. There's probably some deep thing where it's like, hey, they were destined to be together. It's written somewhere in the stars.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something like that. I didn't take it that way until just now.
And the Griffin Flyers arrive. Was this Cat, or was this Cat's friend?
It's Cat's sister.
Her sister.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's Cat's sister. She's badass and she's awesome, and she also deserves love. She and Liam would have made a wonderful couple.
You're making this sad again.
I'm not making it sad. Rebecca Yarros made it sad by killing Liam.
Xaden blocks Violet from attacking them. Taryn protects Violet, which is lovely because Taryn, I am disappointed in for withholding this, but then they put it on the Empyrean says we can't do this. Her heart stops when he says the Flyers are early because she realizes what the hell just happened.
I have two problems with this. Number one, you said Xaden prevented Violet from attacking somebody. There's a power dynamic. He can stop her from attacking people.
I took it as not a truly holding her back, just more of a, I'm someone you trust me, don't do this.
Okay, all right, fair enough. We'll run with that. And then it is said that the only bond stronger between a rider and their dragon is a mating bond between dragons. That means their loyalty to the Empyrean is less than their bond means to them, right? Therefore, his thing being the Empyrean says, I can't tell. What would have made more sense to me if he's like, Sigale swore me to secrecy. I would have been like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. Because if you had sworn me to secrecy, I wouldn't tell somebody something. But if it's just, hey, my job says I can't tell you, I'm giving you all the details.
Maybe it was that. Maybe I am putting words into this.
I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't the Empyrean. I think it was their, yeah.
I think it was the Empyrean.
No, I think it was Sigale.
Okay.
That is between Sigale and Xaden, so it's not Taryn's business to share.
Okay.
But how did Indarna know?
I think you were right. I think they said the Empyrean. I'm okay with giving Taryn a pass no matter what. I'll give Taryn the same latitude you will give Xaden, to be completely honest. I'm still mad at Xaden for not mentioning it because he doesn't have any loyalty to the Empyrean.
I still think that it just fits with Xaden's personality in this, and especially for how close she is to Dain.
It's not a critique of the writing. I want to point that out when I say this. I'm not critiquing the writing. I'm critiquing Xaden's character.
Yeah.
I think it's a character flaw of Xaden's.
Yeah. But I think that it makes sense that he shouldn't tell Violet these things given how close she is to Dain.
I think if he told her these things, she would be less close to Dain. I think having the knowledge that, hey, if he starts reading your fucking mind, we're all in hot water.
They already kind of had that conversation, and she says, no, I trust him. And even when they're dissecting this, she says, well, yeah, he did, but he would never do that.
But if she has the details we have, right? Like she does. She has the details that we do leading up to this point. She would have at this point, like, again, not saying that he should have told her months ago. I'm saying he could have told her on the way there.
Okay. You know, I know what you're saying.
Point, he could have used this opportunity to develop their trust.
But again, he didn't know that
he would get caught.
He would get caught, but he didn't know that this wasn't really a war games activity.
But he was suspicious of that by the team he developed. Like, I know that it's not blatantly said, but I'm saying it really all it boils down to is he didn't think he would get caught.
Yeah.
So he didn't feel the need to be overly honest. And I do think that's a character flaw of Xaden's. It is not a character writing flaw, but I think it's human.
Yeah.
And it's his only goddamn flaw in any of these books is that he's not an honest character.
And it was in this moment that I was having this, if her second signet really is truthsayer because of these behaviors of those around her and the behaviors of Xaden, that's really crappy for their relationship.
She also won't get that second signet until Indarna matures.
Yeah. But I like that you had said she will know when she's using it because you're channeling. She'll know that she's channeling. Therefore, she's going to know when Xaden is choosing to be truthful or not.
And that's, again, it's all theory, but that's my guess. We don't see any real passive segments happening.
Yeah. Chapter 35, the excerpt talks about Fen Riorson's accusation and conspiracy in that it's so outrageous that it won't even be written down. Which kind of sounds like it's a true conspiracy if you're not willing to write it down.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the flat earth conspiracy as something that isn't written down because it's so outrageous?
The government just kept silencing it, and they're like, it's so stupid, we don't want to acknowledge it, versus just acknowledging it in its stupidity.
Yeah.
If you're a flat earther, be better. That's it. It's my note.
They're meant to meet tomorrow, so we already talked about that. The shipment isn't ready. That doesn't make sense, so I'm assuming that they were going to get the shipment from the outpost to give to them. I think that their way of giving the shipment to the Griffin flyers is more of a drop-off and leave.
Yeah.
Not really a meet-up and hang out and talk. It's just, it'll be at this location by this time.
I assume there is some communication because they're communicating when these things could happen, right? So hypothetically, if war games would have happened and these people weren't meant to go to Athebyne, then how would you have made this work? Let's say they were in Montserrat, right? It's a long ways off.
I don't know how
they're far too far west, right?
Yeah, I don't know how they communicate with the flyers yet.
You see what I'm saying? Though, where if all of the marked ones happen to be in the wrong place, then how far in advance could you have planned this drop-off? You can see logistically it does not work that way.
It didn't make sense to me either.
You didn't plan it out a month in advance and happen to be in the right spot.
Yeah.
You got your news where you were going. You were somehow able to communicate that with the Griffin flyers. And then you're like, hey, don't come this day, come this day.
I think we learn about how they communicate in the next book.
Mm-hmm.
So we might have answers then, and we just can't remember them.
Perfect.
Well, the Venin never come this far west from Imogen. That shows the level of understanding that Imogen has, and poor Violet is just like sitting here with what the fuck is going on, with everyone's reaction being so calm, cool, and collected to the information they're being told. I think it would be equivalent to being told,
aliens never come this far west.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that would accept that quickly.
I think what I related it to was more fairy tale like Krampus, like a scary bedtime story, something that is just told to freak you out, and it's not a real thing though. If you were told that type of character is here, it would be wild and confusing.
See, and I think I view aliens that way a bit.
It is. But aliens is definitely a bigger topic of conspiracy than...
Oh, then Wyvern are sort of a secretive. We don't really have one
like a boogeyman. No, not even boogeyman. I think Krampus is just what I thought of at the time. Very scary and terrifying, and is legend.
Wendigo.
Yeah.
Something where, because also the Wyvern aren't something that everybody has heard of. It isn't, it's a specific fairy tale now to certain cultures, right?
And in the next book, I like that we get to learn about the different locations have their different versions of it, and the little pieces that you get. The flyers threaten to use Violet as ransom, and Xaden says, or somebody says, take a step towards that soaring gale and you're dead. And I think that's a reference to Brennan.
Oh, see, I took this as a reference to her mom. Because they were talking about her mom just before this, but they're like, oh, daughter of General Soaringale, Lilith Soaringale, blah, 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 right? And then he's like, yeah, but if you fuck with this Soaringale, you're dead.
How do I want to word it? Earlier, one of the flyers mentions Soaringales have a thing for XYZ. I think that the flyers know Brennan much better than they would know her sister. And they would know her mom better than they would know her sister or Violet. So I think that they were referencing mainly Brennan and her mom.
Okay.
And then Xaden says, take a step towards that soaring gale, because Xaden knows how well that they know Brennan. Because at this point, Brennan has been trying to work out a deal with them that isn't meeting his terms.
But he's not Brennan.
No, he's not. Wait, do they know that he's a soaring gale?
This is my point. The whole point of him taking on a new name and everything was to hide his identity. Because imagine otherwise one of the Griffin Flyers is caught by one of the Dragon Riders and they're tortured for information. They would find out Brennan is alive very quickly. I don't think that the general populace of Griffin Flyers is aware that Brennan Sorengale is alive. I think they think this other guy, why can't I remember his name? I remember it being awesome.
I don't remember. I think you're right. That would be wild.
I don't think that they're aware that Brennan is alive. I think they know this other guy who works for the Resistance is there. I don't think they know it's Brennan.
I think you're right. That makes
Brennan
sense.
hiding his dragon. You know what I'm saying? I got questions.
I don't
worry
know.
about that. We'll get into that in the next
We'll figure it out.
questions.
Taryn and Darna knew. Long discussion of her feelings of betrayal, realizing it's all true, and saying she doesn't love Xaden. Turns out there's a few times that she just turns off her feelings towards him. And that's a very relatable thing, because when I get upset, this is a point between you and me where all feelings are just turned off.
I don't have that.
I see it as a switch. I just turn it off for right now.
I will admit it was shocking. When we first got together, I did not understand. Because it's not the way that I move through feelings. So to me, it was like, oh my God, my world was falling apart when you would get upset. And to this day, it remains a point of contention, to be fair. Because it's difficult for me to grasp being able to just not love you.
And
Does that make sense?
I think that's kind of what happens in their relationship that makes it so relatable. Like, yeah, if I found out this huge of a secret that you've been keeping from me, even very early on in our relationship, because I'm adding decade plus, applying that relationship to theirs is just not realistic. But even a year in or 6 months in, given how early we got married, it makes sense that I would react the same way as Violet. And that you would react like Xaden of just like, oh my God, this is...
I would say it's even more so now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like more so now it would bother me. And then it really would tear me up. Like I said, when you would get upset and be able to just kill that feeling, I could not grasp that. And to be fair, like I said, 15 years in, I can't grasp it either, but I recognize it. Xaden is more relatable to me in this. And it makes sense as apprehension, to be fair. She is not providing him with the tools to allow him to be perfectly honest if he is this deeply in love with her. Because in order to achieve a level of trust for that honesty, you need to believe that this person values you. So I go back and forth in this a little bit. You wouldn't start a relationship with the dishonesty he had, but also you couldn't have achieved the relationship they have if you were honest with her.
And I think this must be a very common thing because of the popularity of this book.
It's a trope, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it's probably built on some level of normalcy. Yeah.
And she reflects on history being replaced in this moment when she is coming to terms with not loving him, thinking about everything her dad said, thinking like piecing everything together is coming into this moment of what the hell is happening. And she says to herself, if I can't trust him, there is no future for us.
True. Preach, girl.
Yeah.
This is the thing. He built a house on a dirt foundation, right? Like, to be fair, while he has these deep feelings, he didn't attempt to lay the groundwork to build a sturdy base.
And after seeing how she reacts to this should have been the big moment of change for him.
Yes.
And it wasn't. Again and again. And a little bit more again.
Well, but part of it is, too, what would have taught him this, right? This hasn't been necessitated for him prior to this.
Yeah.
Like, I would argue, too, and this is where I'm giving Xaden a little more rope. Xaden's life experience would not have dictated this wisdom.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think Violet provides him that life experience in this, where he now, this would have been a great time where you're like, hey, she says she's out of love with you already. This is a good chance to, if you're ever going to find this love, give her every tool that she needs to be aware of everything so that the next time you guys are building this relationship, it starts so much sturdier.
I think it's a good reflection of a couple growing up together.
Yeah.
They're both growing up.
I agree.
She's just doing a better job at it.
Ish. I don't know. I don't agree with her taking this, to be honest. I don't think you can confess deep feelings for somebody and then tear them apart that way either. Like, I do see both people as wrong in this. I think Xaden is more wrong because he feels this deep thing, but he's not honest. But I would say how quickly she lets go of those things also points to it being a very surface level affection she actually has.
Yeah. And that his is a little deeper level, given how much he continues to push.
Yeah,
to keep
he's just
it.
not willing to put in the effort to make it more earnest.
Yeah,
And
I think that's fair.
There's immaturity on both sides here.
Then it all ends with a letter from Daddy Atos, survive if you can.
Yeah, which I don't think like he needed to write that down. I think they were going to do that anyway. Like, he could have just been like, you made it, hang tight, it's about to get crazy, and then left it.
It's going to be a bumpy ride.
You're going to hate this. Do you remember what their challenge actually was?
No.
I don't either. I don't remember them ever getting an official one.
I think that's why they knew to look for a letter. That was supposed to be their rules or their challenge.
Yeah, but there wasn't anything there, really. So if the Venom hadn't shown up, what would have been the thing? Does that make sense? And there's too many marked ones for Melgren to have seen what the fuck's going to happen.
I took it as they knew the Venom were going to be there, and they emptied out the outpost.
How? That's my thing. If they know where the Venom are going to be, the Venom are notoriously sneaky. Like, and never after this do we ever hear a point where we actually know what the fuck is going on with the Venom. It is a surprise every other time they show up.
I guess, yeah. I just assumed that they knew that they were going to be there, so they emptied it.
Maybe Barlow was like, hey, why don't you send the marked ones here? I'll send my people there.
I think Barlow is still a pile of mush at this point.
Well, I think Nolan's been working on him.
It takes, like, into the next book. I think he's a pile of mush.
Nolan works on him constantly.
Yeah, but I don't think he's talking yet.
Well, I think they're using this opportunity to instead, when they realized he survived it and saw how he did, I think he's being interrogated and then reprogrammed through this time because they're like, we can rehabilitate this guy. And I think that's what's taking time. I don't think they were like, he's rehabilitatable, and they immediately put him in Gen Pop again.
Do they constantly bring him back to life? Or not really back to life, but recovering? Yeah, like interrogating.
Yeah, that's my thing. I think he is being forcefully interviewed currently. And I think that's part of why they think that they've managed to break him and then have been able to rehabilitate him.
Well, we still have a little ways to go until we get more details on that.
We do.
What's coming up next is your saddest scenes.
Debating whether or not I finish this. I'm going to be completely honest.
And
I might
then
just jump into the next one.
Is Xaden's point of view in 2 chapters.
I do need to get those. Yeah, because I'm curious.
Did you have any other notes?
Nothing. It was, honestly, it was good. I enjoyed these chapters. Like the sex scenes, it was a lot toward the end, but it makes sense. There has to be some payoff for the people that are here for that.
Here for the smut.
Yep.
Not the spice.
Right. I would say the book was quite spicy. The smutty bits, there's a few throughout. Again, the next book is a little more so even. But the end of this book, I forgot how back-to-back this stuff was. And it makes sense. It's kids. You know, your new relationship. What are you doing all the time when you're in a new relationship? You're fucking all the time.
I thought the majority of the beginning of the next book is her being upset with him.
It starts off that way. She manages to jump that hurdle pretty quickly, but the next book's a lot of back and forth. She goes back and forth, but like the throne scene, I think, is in the first 8 chapters in the next book.
Oh, wow.
I mean, she gets pretty cozy in the castle, but then it goes back and forth.
I think it's later than 8 chapters, but
You're probably right.
we're going to find out.
We will.
Next set of chapters in Xaden's POV.
Finishing the book.
Yes.
It's been a good time.
It has. It was good rereading it. I'm definitely more Team Violet this time around and have a lot more sympathy for what she's going through.
Agreed.
But I love you.
I love you.
You're my bestie.
You're my bestie. It was a great time. We had fun. Now get out and go live your life.
No, wait. No. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate and love you all. Please follow us here, TikTok or Instagram at Yarros.Podcast.
And then go live your life.
Bye.
Bye. Get out. We're done. This was Daggers and Shadow Daddies. Now it's my time. Toodaloo. It was fun for us. I hope it was fun for you. But that's all we've got. Goodbye. Come back in a few days. We love you.